I'd like to call to order the City of Belton Planning Commission meeting. This is April 2nd, 2024. Could we have the roll call, please?
Chairman McPherson,
Here.
Mayor Larkey,
Here.
Councilmember Pryan, Commissioner Crate,
Here.
Commissioner McDonough,
Here.
Commissioner Monahan Bass,
Here.
Commissioner Walton,
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
All right, thank you. We do have several public hearings and a non-public hearing that will be on the agenda for this evening, but our first item would be the review and approval of our March 19 Planning Commission meeting. Those have been distributed to all members. Are there any corrections, additions, changes that need to be made? And if not, we would entertain a motion for approval of those as presented.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes for March 19th.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we will move into the public hearing. And before I call the first one to order, let me just kind of give a little bit of instruction. As we enter into the public hearing, we are thankful for those from the community that have come tonight and want to give you the opportunity either to speak in favor of the request or in opposition to the request. And so after we have after staff has presented the application, then we will open for those that would like to speak in favor. We'll ask you to come over to the podium, state your name, address for the record, and we will ask that basically limit to 5 minutes or under, and not to repeat testimony already that's been provided. Not that we can't agree with someone that's already spoken, but just if the comments have already pretty much been covered that you would like to make sure that we hear, just ask that we let that stand. And then after we have asked for those that want to speak in favor, we'll do the same for those that are in opposition, giving opportunity for you to speak, giving your name, address for the record from the podium. And again, 5 minutes. We ask you to keep it within that without a lot of repetition. And then after that, we will close the public hearing, and the commission will be able to finalize any discussion that we have at that point. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and call to order the first public hearing for RZ 2024-01, an application for a rezoning from R2, two-family residential, to R2 PUD, two-family residential planned unit development for properties generally located on the northeast side of 2nd Street between Herschel and Hackberry Streets. And we will have the city planner, Ms. Fernandez.
Thank you. An application was filed to rezone from R2 to R2 PUD and preliminary plat a 0.75 acre block between Herschel Street and Hackberry Street on the north side of 2nd Street into 11 lots and 1 tract to develop 11 single-family homes with detached garages, a central gathering space, and dog park. The subject property is bound by single-family homes and the City Hall Annex. The property is subject to compliance with the R2 PUD or two-family planned unit development district standards from the UDC with the rezoning approval, as well as any PUD standards approved within the staff report. The plan meets all site design requirements except for the standards highlighted in blue in the staff report on page 2. The proposed PUD standards for the site design are a minimum lot size of 2,948 square feet from 6,000 square feet as the R2 requirement, 22 feet minimum lot size width, and from 65 feet in the R2 requirement. No change on the minimum lot depth of these lots. 12 feet of a front setback instead of 25 feet. 4 feet side setbacks instead of 5 feet, and no change on the rear setbacks of these lots, and a 4-foot side setback or from the property line setback instead of a 10-foot setback on the monument sign. So those PUD standards would be approved with the rezoning request. There are no modifications requested for parking standards, so the proposed parking meets all of our standards with 2 per dwelling unit, and then exceeds those parking standards with 3 visitor spaces, and then as well as providing 16 on-street parking spaces with a total of 41 parking spaces here. The plat includes 11 lots and 1 tract. The lots range in size from 2,900 to 3,700 square feet, with 22 to 28 foot wide lots, which are comparable to the originally platted 24 foot wide lots that exist currently in downtown. The larger lots are located on either end of the development, so on either corner there, which allows for larger side yards. And then tract A, which is 4,500 square feet and 34 feet wide, contains the proposed central green space, visitor parking lot, the monument sign, and dog park to be maintained by the HOA. So the central green space in the middle, and then the houses on either side. The plat includes access off of the existing alley on the north side of 2nd Street, which will be the main access for all of the detached garages located behind the single-family homes. The proposed plat includes street improvements to all 3 sides or street frontages, which would include curb, gutter, and landscape bump outs, as well as the on-street striped parallel parking spaces. So that would be approximately 16 on-street parallel parking spaces, and all of the public improvements would be included in this development. In terms of the site plan, the preliminary site plan indicates that lots 1 through 11 are proposed to be 11 single-family homes with alley-loaded single-car detached garages. The homes are proposed to be 1,680 square feet and have 4 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms with front porches. Tract A, located in the center of the block, includes the visitor parking spaces, a pavilion or shelter, the green space, dog park, as well as the monument sign. The proposed preliminary landscape plan includes all required street trees, yard trees, foundation plantings, as well as some additional shrubs along the corner lots. And the 4-foot side yards between each of the houses are proposed to be river rock to aid with maintenance and erosion. And the provided photometric plan meets all UDC requirements. This development is also proposed to be phased. So phase 1 would be approximately the west side of the development, kind of splitting this in between from the central green space. West is phase 1, and then green space east would be phase 2. So all of the public improvements with private improvements would be done in phase 1 together, and then phase 2 would finish out with those 2 things together as well. Kind of scrolling through some renderings of the site. Based on the findings of fact, the view development meets all city standards and requirements in UDC outside of the modifications requested through the PUD. Staff believes that this proposal is a great example of infill housing and a strategy that can be repeated to bring more flexible and affordable housing types to Belton. More renderings. And staff recommends approval of the application for rezoning, preliminary plat, and development plan with the 3 conditions listed in the staff report. I'm here for questions, and the applicant is here as well.
All right, let me just ask the applicant, is there anything additional that you would like to share with the commission or the public at this point?
I think the photos, my name is Sean Flannemeyer, can everybody hear me okay?
Do we have that microphone available for him?
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think the only
you.
thing that wasn't shown in the renderings is that we did a lot of work towards having an outdoor living space between the garage and the house as well. So that's reflected in a different slide deck. If anybody's interested, we have more renderings that can kind of show what that space looks like between the homes.
All right, thank you. So as I'd stated, we will ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak in favor of the proposal. If you would come to the microphone. Anyone speaking in favor? We will ask the same then, seeing none, if anyone that would like to speak in opposition, if you'll come to the microphone. We will ask that we hold all the questions, so we won't just do a question and answer back and forth while you're at the podium, but feel free to ask any questions you want, and then we will have the staff and the applicant available to answer those questions for you. But feel free to make your way to the podium.
My name's Elmer Larkey, and I lived in Belton since 1951. And I see that they've tried to make some changes since the last meeting, but I'm not quite aware of what all they're trying to do. You know, and I've heard a lot of rumors about they wasn't going to put no upstairs in them and all. And if the lot's going to be 22 foot wide and they put a 14-foot house on it, I think it's a little too close for fire. You know, if they put a bedroom in the basement, they have an egress window coming out, they're 3 foot deep. And you put one on each house, there's only going to leave less than 2 foot between them to mow a yard or anything. And I just think it's the wrong thing for where it's at. And I can remember, you know, I talked about it before, I can remember, you know, when Belton was just an old town, and then the Air Force came, Belton changed a little, and they started building all kinds of little houses, and then they got all the trailer parks and all that, and it's took us over 40 years to get away from most of that, and now you want to go right back to this same type stuff. I can even remember once in a trailer park, Huffman Trailer Park, they had a guy move a horse trailer and was living in a horse trailer. You know, so I'm really worried when you start changing the codes to allow things to happen. Anybody with money can come in and do anything they want, and I'm really worried about that. So,
Okay. All right. Appreciate that.
and if I think of something else, I'll come back.
Okay. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else?
I'm Greg Larkey. I live at 620 Main, which is right behind where this is going to be. What's the start date? This is something I'd like to know. Was there a traffic impact study done on this? Has anybody done a traffic impact study?
No, we have not done a traffic impact study.
Is there one going to be done?
No, we didn't think a traffic impact study was required or needed in this case because the lots, the way they are currently platted, could house 12 single-family homes on it, on all of these lots and on the block. So we figured with 11 single-family homes, it would be 1 unit less than what could currently be built. So we didn't think we needed a traffic study.
I agree with you that the lots are 24 foot wide and you could put one house on. Nowhere in Belton is there in the old part of Belton, is there one house on one lot. Every house in the old part of Belton has 2 or more lots. And if you'd like the data, I can bring it to you and show it to you. Is the developer here gonna get a tax break on all this, or is he gonna pay all the tax that he's supposed to pay?
The location of this site is within the Old Town Belton redevelopment district, so there is an opportunity for tax abatement for the new homes. Now, the way that that typically works is that that abatement goes towards the property owner, not the developer.
Okay. The houses I just heard are 1,680 square feet. Can somebody elaborate on that? Because I guarantee none of them houses right there have 1,680 square feet in them.
They will have fully finished basements, and I can, if the applicant has any more details on those, but floor plans were provided that have fully finished first floor and lower level.
With egress windows out both sides.
Correct. For any of the spaces where those are required.
Are these prefab homes, manufactured homes with just a facade put on, or are they still stick-built?
These will be stick-built homes.
If we change the zoning for this here, does that mean anybody can do little houses anywhere in the old part of Belton? Or is it gonna be a case-by-case basis?
This is a PUD, so it is a case-by-case basis. Ultimately, it's up to the city council to approve a PUD. It doesn't necessarily set a precedent. There could be, it's evaluated case-by-case basis for a PUD.
I know there's an HOA and all that. Will these ever be able to be rented?
We do not have any final say over owner occupancy or rental. However, that would be something that could be written into the HOA restrictions. Also, in terms of the tax abatement, that could be something to where those are only available to a new buyer.
I think this is gonna cause my property value to go down. Anytime you put a smaller house in an area where the values are higher, it brings the property value down. I'm totally against this. I think the city's already got their mind made up, and there's probably nothing I can do about it. But remember, would you want this in your backyard? Just ask yourself, would you want this in your backyard? If I bought the land behind any of you guys' house and I wanted to put these small houses in, would you want that? I don't think you would.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Or in favor? We will keep it open for both. Hi.
I've never been to one of these, so I didn't know, like, you could speak at them, so I'm a little nervous, but
If you'll just give your name
oh.
and address for the record, and then you're welcome to.
Melanie Richards, 519 2nd Street. I have two concerns. One is, I mean, they're new and they look nice from the picture. I just don't see how it would fit in with the rest of 2nd Street. If you drive down 2nd Street, it's much older homes. I'm just wondering if, has the market been checked? And I think I don't remember how much they were saying it was, but like either 350,000 or 500,000 would be the average price. Does that sound right? No. I mean, my house was way less than that.
I believe the narrative in the packet says 250 to 300,000.
Okay, I just wonder if someone is in the market to buy. I don't know. And I bought my house in 2009, so I know the market's gone way up. But I don't know. Maybe people do want to buy them. The market's totally different. But these nice new houses don't fit in with the older homes on 2nd Street. So yeah, just visually, I mean, yeah, they look nice, but I don't know. It's cramping 11, it seems cramped. Like, I don't see why you couldn't do less, but I understand it's a money thing. I don't know if it's the city or they want to make money. And then taxes, like he mentioned, your taxes might go down, but I understand it to go up, and I don't want my monthly mortgage to go up like an extreme amount. I mean, someone suggested you could sell your home, but I need to live somewhere. I'm still alive. I gotta live somewhere, and Yeah, so that's my concern, my monthly mortgage and just visually, it just seems too cramped, so, that's it.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Anyone else? Elmer, I know you reserved the right to speak again, so you didn't use up your time, so we'll let you speak again.
Okay, I just have a few questions about what concessions is being given to this property. You know, I know the city paid $172,000 for that house they're gonna tear down. How are you getting any of your money there? And how's this gonna work? I mean, how are they gonna end up with the property and whatever? Is it gonna be put up for bids, or is it gonna be, just given to them? Or what is going on? I'd like to know a little more about what's going on with it, you know? And I don't think people have been straightforward with all the citizens around what's going on.
So the process on this is that the city did put out an RFP back in November for this property to solicit proposals for the site. We specifically asked for a residential proposal. We did receive 2 proposals on that due date, which was December 1st. One of the proposals was for a much larger multifamily development on this property. And then we received a proposal from the developer before you this evening. We reviewed those and believed that this was a more appropriately scaled development as opposed to a 3-story apartment building with some townhomes. And so that is how this was selected. Those proposals were on our website. And so those were public documents. And then after we reviewed that, we worked with this developer on bringing this application forward for consideration by the Planning Commission and the City Council. In terms of a final sales agreement, that has not been finalized. That wouldn't be finalized until some kind of a conceptual plan is approved, and then we would bring an actual sales through with a final plat.
I was also aware of any time you want to make changes for the requirement setbacks and stuff, you just have to know to everybody within 500 foot a letter before you ever started this.
It's 185 feet is our code. And we actually sent that to 300 feet because we had a neighborhood meeting and we went ahead and expanded that to 300 feet. And so we kept that consistent. So actually we provided additional notification beyond what our code requires for this project, in addition to also having a neighborhood meeting, which our code also does not require.
I haven't talked to anybody that got any notifications. That's what I'm asking. You know, and this is back in November. That's 6 months ago or 7 months ago.
The notifications were sent out for the February meeting. There wouldn't have been any, the process of getting any kind of reductions in lot sizes, setbacks, that is the purpose of this public hearing. This is the first public hearing related to that.
But it's been going on since November.
In November was when we put out the project for solicitation for a development proposal. We didn't specifically state in there anything about setback reductions or anything of that nature.
It seems to me like you already had your mind made up before you even noticed anybody until someone started to say something.
We selected the project that we thought was the best fit and then are going through the appropriate procedures to determine if it is appropriate, and ultimately that will be the city council that makes that decision.
So the process does require, for anything like this, that it be put out for a public bid. Is that correct?
Since it was a city-owned,
proposal.
since it was a city-owned property, that is why it was put out. And we typically do that if it's a project that we are looking to have a developer come in and develop. We don't have any other city purpose for it. So we would like to turn it over to private development for a purpose that best fits the community's needs. In this situation, we thought it was best located for additional housing opportunities since we know that our housing market is tight and inventory is low. And we're also in a part of the community where there is a need for additional housing, especially to help continue to expand and revitalize Main Street in the downtown area.
And as far as notifications and all, until you actually had a plan submitted to you to act on, there's no way that you could know who to notify or who would be affected, is that?
Correct.
Okay.
And so once we received this proposal from the developer, we walked through our standard process, which we have a pre-application with them, review the conceptual plans. We make notes of where amendments may need to be made or modifications to the code to make this work. We make suggestions on how they can make improvements to the project based on how we think there might be perception from the community. And bring it forward. They submit an application. Once they've made those changes, we send out a notification for a neighborhood meeting, which is not required, but we suggested it in this situation. They held the neighborhood meeting on February 22nd. We had about 15 to 20 residents that did attend, and had a conversation with staff and the developer, with the citizens on that. Went back, and then they also, based on that, there may have been some further modifications made, and then there was the public hearing notice that went out on February 28th.
Appreciate that timeline. I think that kind of helps to know what the timeline was on all that. Elmer, anything additional?
I'm sure I got more, but I'm just worried about it. I'm worried about the whole town of Belton for that. Because I lived through some of these changes that come to Belton, and it took 40 years to get away from them. You know, the trailer parks and Twin Oaks, for instance. And then it finally started getting bigger, and they started building better houses, and we was getting away from it, but it took 40 years for that to happen. And I'm worried about it's going to happen again, and you're going to degrade the whole neighborhood, price-wise.
Anyone else before we close the public meeting and open it to the council? And we will close the public hearing and we'll open it to the council. I'd like to start by asking, it was based on a question or a comment that was made, and I heard a couple of times, but from our fire inspector, what are your thoughts as far as especially the side setbacks?
Well, definitely from the fire marshal standpoint, I want more room on the sides, because it already says 5 foot is what it should be, and we're gonna make that 4 foot now. And I understand fire resistive exterior walls, but also windows, siding, roofing, whether that's fire resistive or not, to a point to make that safe. It also makes it a dangerous area for us to fight fire in the middle. I'm not against the proposal at all. I just like a little more space in those side yards. I really'd like to keep that 5 foot in each side yard so that we have that 10 foot to operate in if we had to, or for people to escape through. Because ultimately my goal is, if one of those catches fire, is it safe enough to put people in the middle to fight the fire before it catches the next house on fire and the next house on fire. So, you know, and that's the safety standpoint I have to look at it from.
Okay.
So,
Appreciate that input as well. The commission, commissioners, any questions, comments?
Matt, you said you called a neighborhood meeting. How was your turnout at that?
We had about 15 to 20 residents in attendance.
Okay. General consensus, did a lot of mostly concern, positive support?
I think you heard a lot of the opposition this evening was kind of the similar comments and concerns expressed there. There were also a few members that were in attendance who generally did not seem opposed to the project, liked the additional housing opportunities in downtown. But I can't fully speak to them since they're not here this evening.
All right. My last question for you is how many properties will this connect through? How many residential properties will this border?
This will not immediately border any shared properties because it's all bounded by the streets on 3 sides and the alley on the other side. So there's no private property immediately adjacent to the additional lots that are being added. They're all separated by streets or alleys.
Commissioner?
I think it seems like a pretty nice development, although,
Mike
looking
on.
at it, to me, I wouldn't be afraid of it, except it's so small, so crowded together, so dense.
Is
Or
your,
8 foot apart, me and Don are 8 foot away. That's what's gonna be between the houses. Seems like, it could thin the houses out a little bit. Oh. Testing.
I got it.
But I got some concerns about it. Like I said, the house is so dense. We've challenged the density before. 11, could you get away with 10? Still make money. One of my questions was, they're all gonna have basements. They're not slabbed then. 100% all basements. Homeowner association, I was gonna ask about that. I don't know, is the street lighting sufficient? There's one street light right in the middle of the whole thing with nothing around back. Has that been addressed at all? It seems like it's kind of pretty dark area.
And the city engineer can correct me if I'm wrong, the requirement is at least one per every 150 feet, I believe, so having one in the center of the block would meet that
Right, that's the
requirement.
very minimum. And then you've got the back alley too, with the unlit alley, right?
Can I speak to that?
Okay,
The
yeah.
Detached garages, there's dual sconces on the back of each. The lighting plan didn't totally transfer. Also, all the front porch lighting is down lighting from the soffits, which have 2 LED lights.
So
and
if they turn the lights on, we'll have lights.
That's true.
So, and I'm talking about public lighting.
I understand.
Here is the proposed lighting plan up here, if you can see that.
Yeah, but there's only one public light though, right? The street light right in front in the middle.
Yes, the one that
There's-
meets our
Our minimum's
requirements.
150 feet, and what's that, 144 feet each?
So the lighting we use is designed to cover 200 linear feet of street, and then there's 2 existing lights on the corners on
They'll stay.
along Second Street.
They'll
And
stay.
Yeah, they'll stay or at least be replaced with something sufficient.
Okay.
And then as far as the alley's concerned, I'm not aware of any standard practice of lighting alleys like a street.
Well, some towns do, I'm seeing. My biggest concern is the density of the whole thing. 11 houses, 8 feet apart, it's pretty tight. 10 feet apart's pretty tight. And then, and I worry a little bit about setting a precedent on the change for the small lots. I see Lee Summit's going to that also, even though it's not listed on there. I'm not really opposed to it, but I don't think they're building 14-foot wide houses there.
I will speak to, so the 8-foot separation, the standard code is 10, so it is a 2-foot reduction or 1 foot on each side of the property line. So that's not a significant modification there. So even if they came back with a different plan, they could still have the 5-foot side setback. We also, because these are 24-foot wide lots that are currently platted, we do have a section in our code regarding non-conforming lots, which does allow the development of a non-conforming lot. So legally, they could develop on this 24-foot wide lot with a 14-foot house with 5-foot side yards. But, when we put this out, we were hoping to get some central green space in there, which they've added. Also, I think we can all agree that the on-street parking and the sidewalk improvements are also desirable on this property. But yeah, I mean, if there's a concern about the side setbacks, I don't know if the applicant wants to speak to any opportunities they have to potentially increase that to 5 feet with a 10-foot building separation.
Matt, what about on the sides? Can we, how those corner lots are wider? Can we adjust and maybe gain some out? Are we allowed to go closer to those side streets with the buildings?
Setbacks.
Yeah, you could do that, but I think you still would not have, even if you push that to 5 feet, I don't think you're gonna fully make up all of the space in between that you'll need. So really the only way to gain those additional side yards is to reduce the green space in the middle of the block. So if that is something that the,
Or build one less home.
or potentially lose a lot as well.
How big's the green space again, the width?
It's 34 feet wide.
So we're losing 18 feet if we add the two. So it's only on the side, in the middles of all those, so we lose 18 feet.
Sorry, if you can use that microphone.
I'm sorry. We'd lose 18 feet.
Well, I wouldn't want to give up any green space. That's a pretty important part of the project. That's what I say. Plus, she was talking about the Old Town. I think the style fits nice in Old Town, by the way. The style of the homes. But I wouldn't want to lose any green space, but maybe one less lot in that one block.
How about trash and recycling? I know we've had issues at other neighborhoods. Is this a community bin? Is this everybody has individual?
The HOA will require one pickup of trash one day a week by the same company for all of them. So the trash will go out to the alley on trash day.
It'll go to the alley, okay.
Yeah.
It would fall under our standard single-family trash pickup.
I got a question. Initially, the proposal was just all single story, and then at one time we changed and added some 2 stories, and now we're back to 1 stories. Why was that change made?
I really didn't like the way it looked. I felt like they towered over the other houses, so it was just strictly, I didn't think it looked appealing.
Additionally, believe that the 2-story home was going to be on slab as opposed to a basement like the single-story homes would have. To make up for the loss of the 2-story, we asked for some additional modifications and variations in the roof design, so that's why you see different styles of gables and other windows in the upper story there.
How many different home plans is there available to choose from, or is it all one?
Two.
Two? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's in there.
So, I think there's a legitimate concern with the houses in that area and the concern of them becoming rental properties at some point. That's a big topic here in Belton, period, of concern of outside buyers purchasing the homes and then renting them out. And I could understand from the perspective of the homeowners in this immediate area being concerned that those eventually turn into mostly all rentals instead of an investment of a homeowner in that area, which I think is the whole idea behind Main Street, is really having an investment of people anchored in Main Street opposed to it being rental properties. I would be in favor if we do that, and I'm kind of with Tim. I'm a little concerned about the amount of houses there and the amount of space. It seems like there's a lot of several exceptions here. So I would want, as you proposed, maybe the HOA is agreed to that, but that HOA could go away, right? And then it could become rentals as well?
Yeah, and if the applicant wouldn't mind just speaking to their experience of, they've built many similar homes elsewhere across the metro, and kind of their experience with those becoming rental. My guess is because these homes at the start of construction are going to be priced higher than existing homes on other blocks, I would think that would be a less incentive for somebody to buy this as a rental property. Even elsewhere in the city, what we've seen is homes in this price range that were originally put up for rent ended up being not attractive to rental companies because with all of the new apartments that had comparable rents, people were selecting those for the amenities as opposed to a single-family home that has additional maintenance costs with it. So I think the likelihood of these, especially for the first number of years, being anything other than owner-occupied is probably quite low. Just based on what we've seen in other single-family neighborhoods of new construction that are in this price point.
You know, there's been a little bit of talk about putting, you know, not being able to rent them into the HOA, but I didn't think that that was a legal binding thing anyway. But nevertheless, we're not interested in doing that. We're building these to sell, but if for some reason we cannot sell them, you know, we can't collect houses, we need to do something. We believe they're gonna sell, we're gonna build a nice product, and we're not gonna have to worry about that.
I'd also like to comment on the fact that we built out the majority of the traditions in Belton, and we worked with Salee, the developer over there, that initially tried to do 47 rental homes at the price point of $339, and the multiplier on the back end for investors is unreasonable at that price point. Now Roush Coleman's in town selling homes at $285 or $265, and coincidentally, a neighbor that will be across from this development here has already purchased one on dirt in that neighborhood at that price point. And I think those start to come down to a price point where that could be a possibility. But I think, you know, it's to be fair, to be transparent, that we don't want to put that in the HOA. But our experience and just our initiative is, if nothing else, hopefully our effort in the presentation shows we want to build something to compete with what I see a more corporate builder like Roush Coleman. We're going to be competing against them on a very low price point, but we think we're going to offer a product that's much more unique with a much better experience. And our take is that this is an interview for you guys on the first development to help do infill in Belton and help grow a community. And we've already had that reputation in Kansas City, Missouri, which quite honestly I think is the hardest city to do that in town. And we could show you those developments as we mentioned in another meeting. So I guess financially, there's a possibility, but at the price point, I think it's very difficult to do, but I don't think it's right to write it into the HOA to avoid a rental on them.
Also, as far as and I get the fire rating, you know, we will have fire rated walls and soffits to try to help that, but we're not interested in losing a lot. We feel like we're spending a bunch of money on the pavilion and all the public area there, so losing a lot would be pretty detrimental to us.
And one surprise that we did have in the midst of this, which I know we're all working together as a team, but there's also been stormwater that's now required in the midst of this, which how many feet of stormwater needs to be added?
Across the front, and maybe we knew we don't have to do a detention pond, which is a positive thing. I think maybe we just had, the water has to go somewhere, so there's a little bit more work there than we may have thought to make that happen.
I think our biggest challenge on this development is we want it to look nice. I mean, the colors, we don't really want to give people options like this is what it's going to look like. You know, if you want to decorate the interior and those things, but we're passionate about the look. I mean, forgive the term, but I think they look like cute houses. I think people are going to enjoy driving up to them, and it's going to create a streetscape. But to lose, you know, that footage, what our competition is now as a local builder is now we're competing with Roush Coleman at $285, and as soon as we lean out the lots or the houses, we keep going up in an infill environment, and that's what we're at least like to tell you what our pain points are when we get into a situation like this.
I got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
You said the trash is all in one, picks up once a week?
Each person will put it out back like a typical.
So, but they're all sold individually and they're all on their own water lines?
Yes, sir.
They all pay their own water bills? Well, as a citizen of Belton, I have to pay for trash service, so I think they need to pay for trash service.
They would still be subject to, they will pay for trash service. These will be
Or their
a
own
standard
van.
residential customer, just like all other single-family units are in the city.
Okay, so it'd be just like everybody else.
Correct.
Okay.
One thing that I noted earlier, I think it indicated that the 3 side streets that bordered that there were some plans for some improvements on those. But it also stated that the alley is going to be the main in and out for the residents. Will the alley be updated? Will there be improvements made to the alley? Because it sounds like that's going to have a lot of the traffic, and that's the concern. I just want to make sure that that's covered.
Yeah, so there will be construction along the alley, and once all the homes have been completed, they will be required, before we'll give occupancy on the last lot, they'll be required to repave the alley between Herschel and Hackberry.
Commissioners, any additional questions?
You know, I'm thinking about this, and, you know, I think there's some unanswered questions that we need to discuss with staff and then with the developer. I don't see moving forward with this tonight.
Okay. So that's definitely one of our options that we have would be to table this without taking any action this evening and having some additional staff and developer input.
Would you like to table it or continue it
Or
to the
continue it.
next meeting? If we table it, we will have to bring it
To
back
re-announce.
forward to once we have a date finalized, which does put it out at least a month because we would do a renotice of a public hearing for
Okay.
that. If we continue it to a date certain to the next meeting, that would be a little more ideal. That way, everybody that is here this evening knows that it's been continued to that date.
Are there questions that we haven't talked about? We really don't want to delay this thing a month. It's a long process already.
Go ahead.
Just say commission.
Go ahead. I mean,
where-
I don't think there's support up here for the project as it is. I mean, I think we need to do something here, and I would like something done here. But I think there's enough questions here that aren't. So. That's all. I just asked for a little bit more time so we can.
And I guess I just wanted to throw in a little bit more from staff's perspective as well. Through the comprehensive plan process, we've heard a lot about affordable housing types and different types of housing that Belton doesn't have. And this type of infill, smaller lot home with a single-story primary bedroom style house is a very flexible housing type, small yard. It could be for young families as well as elderly people that can't get around 2-story homes as well. And at the price point that Elevate Design Build is trying to sell these at, it could go both ways as well for young families or for elderly people. So with this proposal, staff was really trying to fill that need for the citizens of Belton that we've heard for more affordable housing types and for different housing styles that we don't really have. So we can appeal to a broad variety of community members. So we think that this is a good choice and a housing type that we don't really have right now. So that's the staff's perspective on this.
If this was to pass tonight, it would go to the next city council meeting, or it would be,
It would go to the April 23rd city council meeting.
would that be with the new voted in city council, or would that still be, that would be with the new voted in city? Okay, thank you.
The comprehensive plan, definitely one of the things that we heard repeatedly was we need housing in all areas, from entry level on up to the higher priced homes. and larger homes. So, you know, I know this was definitely one of the options that they did talk about as far as that's concerned. You know, my main concern, and I think that's basically what I've heard from a lot, especially from some that spoke this evening, is just how close the houses are going to be to each other. And you know, I definitely understand the need with cost that you have to do enough to offset that cost. At the same time, not wanting to just cram. And I know we year or two ago, we had a presentation for something that was going to be pretty tight, and it was postponed, and actually came up with I think they ended up putting in a preschool in place of it. Not that we want to change everything, but it was because of the discussion that came out of it. And I think, you know, this is definitely a lot better than what we were looking at with that one. And I like the looks. I really, to me, it seems like as developers, you did a great job of designing these to look like the old town homes with the style, but to do it with a new spin on it as well. And so I appreciate the work that went into that. But
I mean, back to what we were talking about, I guess, for more information, I would like to see a plan that puts at least 10 foot between the houses. And I know you said you didn't like the look, but you look at this A3, and to me, that street view looks just like a normal brand new neighborhood. This does not look like that neighborhood over here with 2-story and single-story houses. So that's why I'm still kind of stuck on having some of them that are 2-story house that breaks it up. So that's where I'm at.
appreciate that.
You know.
Do we have the ability to comment at least what the impact would be potentially of the loss of one lot? I mean, if we lose one lot, I just did some quick math, but if we spread a lot, you know, these are assumed costs. The stormwater has been the biggest thing that, of course, we're passionate about the project and we want to do, but by removing a lot and a house, now we're spreading approximately another $20,000 across the 10 homes that are left. So now we continually start to move away from ourselves. And as the developer and builder of this, I mean, we want to build an attractive product, but our threat that we feel is the Roush Coleman product that's going in Traditions right now on slab. And we believe we're going to be a higher price point than them anyways, just based upon the way this thing is going to be required to be developed. So as we lose lots, it starts to become more unattractive for us to do it. And then we're competing with splits that are sitting in Traditions on the 4th plat or the 5th plat. And this is more of a unique, and infill is more difficult project. And I think that's where we can understand your concerns, but they're also designed to accommodate, you know, the fire rating and those things. So I think if we're at a loss of one lot, it would take more conversation about what can we do to work together to make it more affordable for the 10 remaining homes.
So as I heard earlier, the other option was to take away from the green space, which I know none of us really like to take away green space whenever. But how much green space are we talking about taking that whole thing? Are we talking about having a reduced green space in between to allow for that 10 foot in between the homes?
You wouldn't lose all the green space, but it would be narrowed down to 16 feet wide.
As opposed to 34.
34 feet.
Matt,
So
is that
be
with
about half.
moving them over to the corners?
Yeah, is there there's no gain
We
on the
could
ends?
we could gain a little bit if we reduce the side setbacks along Herschel and Hackberry. That is an option. Right now, those are at 10 feet. So if that is something that the Planning Commission would be supportive of reducing that a little bit lower, that could keep the green space a little bit larger. You'd at least probably lose one of the parking spaces, and potentially the pavilion may go away or be reduced in size.
There's no planned sidewalks on those streets today.
There are, I believe there's a sidewalk along Second Street. They're all in pretty bad shape right now, and they may need to be modified a little bit anyway, once you add in the parking. Also, there's open ditches on all three of those street sides, and that's part of this improvement that the applicant was speaking to, is that they would have to fill in those and put in a stormwater system and then pave that over with the additional on-street parking. So there is an infrastructure cost that is being part of this development.
Also, my thoughts are on it. I'm supportive. I'm kind of indifferent, go back and forth, and I really appreciate the local residents that came out and gave their opinion and completely understand where they're coming from. To me, this is something that I would vote yes for, because I think it needs to be in front of the city council, the new city council who will be up here, who have been out hearing the voice of the residents here recently. I don't know how that would go. I would encourage the applicant to look at some of the things we're talking about before they go into the city council meeting, or else I think you're gonna have the same questions and maybe the same outcome. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
You know, I agree with you too, and I hate to delay anybody. I don't want to see anything delayed either, but I think we're just gonna have these same questions at the council meeting.
Yeah.
I agree.
I will point out on it from a timing standpoint, because there is a fifth Tuesday in April, it doesn't delay it by as much going to council. So normally we have to, after we have a planning commission meeting, we have to skip the next council meeting. But even if this were continued to the April 16th, we would still be going on to the first meeting in May as opposed to the second meeting in May to council.
What is the pleasure of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve as is.
Okay, you have a motion? Motion and second. Any further discussion? And again, this would be advancing it to the city council then, at that point. I don't know, is it possible to add a request? I'm thinking of the mayor's request that by the time it's presented to the council, we might have maybe a alternative plan as to what it would look like to take some of that green space and give that 10-foot between.
So we are also, this is a concept plan, our preliminary development plan and a preliminary plat. So there always is that opportunity that if the city council has those same concerns, they could, and I would have to visit with our city attorney about it, but that could be a condition that's made that be modified with a final development plan and a final plat when it comes back through for those final approvals.
What I wasn't sure is if that had to be approved by Planning Commission before the council could actually act on that with the new revisions.
Yeah, essentially the Planning Commission tonight is approving what is on the screen. I mean, there could be conditions, but then that doesn't give the applicant any time to request have any conversation with that or look at that to see how it really impacts the plan. So that is up to the Planning Commission if they want to add that as a condition. And I guess I'll refer to the applicant if they have a concern with adding that condition, or if they would rather see a continuance to allow them to make and see what that would look like.
Matt, did you say we were 15 feet off the side corners now?
looks like 10.
Oh, 10. Can't see it.
It's 10 and a half.
10.
10 and a half on the Herschel Street side, and it's 9 and a half on the Hackberry side. And that is from the back of the right of way, which is roughly maybe less than a foot off the back of the sidewalk that's proposed.
Foot off the back of the sidewalk to the 10. Because could we do 5 feet? Because the sidewalk's plus, isn't it? The sidewalk's in the right of way, so it's out of that 10 feet. Can we go to 5 feet on the sides, and then we wouldn't have to choke so much out of that green space? What would we need, another 10 or 11 feet? What'd you say it was, 20?
I think I said 18.
18.
Yeah, so that's a good
So
idea.
if we could get 10 out of there, then we'd only have to steal 4 from the 4 on each side.
That's a good idea.
What do you guys think about that? Yeah? Okay. I think
So I think that would work under UDC requirements. They seem willing to make that change. So if the commission wanted to add that as a condition to make all side setbacks 5 feet and to reduce the green space, we can do that.
Okay. So we do have a motion and a second currently. Would there be a motion to amend, or would you want to withdraw the motion and then we could?
Yeah, I'll withdraw the motion to approve and mission to approve with the contingency of the 5 foot.
With the 5 foot side setbacks on all areas. Okay. Any additional comments, questions? So we do have a motion. Is there a second? Okay. All right. Could we have the roll call, please?
So, wait a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So if we pass this tonight, it'll go to the council on the 9th?
It will go to the council on April 23rd, is what it's set at. So if that condition does hold, we could work with the applicant on getting those revisions made prior to the city council meeting on the 23rd.
Okay. All right, any other discussion, questions before we put it to a vote? Could we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Larkey,
No.
Commissioner Walton,
No.
Chairman McPherson,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonough, Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Monahan Bass,
No.
Commissioner Crate.
No.
So that did fail. And so at this point, I think, as I heard the concerns, and as Mayor said, I think maybe getting some additional questions answered where it could possibly be brought back before us for reconsideration would be our next step.
Would we meet again on the 16th?
We will, but because this was voted down, they would have to come back with essentially a new plan, and we would have to renotice that as a new public hearing. So the additional items that are on the agenda would need to be tabled until that application is brought forward.
So, then our second public hearing, which was for the preliminary development plan for the same lot, and also the non-public hearing for the preliminary plat. We will, do we have a motion to table those till the next meeting where we could review the application for rezoning?
Motion to approve, is it table or postpone?
Okay. Tabling on those, okay.
Motion to table PDP 2024-01 as presented.
Okay,
Second.
all right. And that, I believe, is just a voice vote for
Yeah, a voice
tabling.
vote would be
So
sufficient
all
for
those
those.
in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then also postponing of PP 2024-01. Is there a motion to table that as well?
Motion to table PP 2024-01 as presented.
All right. And
Second.
a second. All right. And once again, voice vote for that. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Director, is there a update on the comprehensive plan for us this evening?
The only thing that we have is we did receive the housing chapter from our consultants last week, and we had some reviewed that and had some revisions or some comments on those. So the team is working on those. Once they have made those changes, we will start having those posted on the comprehensive plan website, and we will get that sent out to the community so they can take a look at that information.
Okay. And anything else from the director's report?
We do not have any items for the April 16th Planning Commission meeting. I did want to remind everybody that we had discussed previously potentially having a special meeting on Tuesday, April 30th for the UMKC studio to make a presentation on a conceptual plan for the North Scott and Turner Road project that they're working on. So I will send out a reminder on that to the commission, and we'll get that on the calendar and get that posted.
Okay. All right, so next meeting, April 16th. Any other business this evening?
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.